Hi, everybody. Hello. We've got David and Goran. Welcome. Adam, good to see you again. Hope everything's well after Christmas and New Year's. I guess for a lot of people, this is the first time we've been back online in this environment since before the Christmas break. Okay, we're just letting a few more people into the meeting and then we'll kick things off. Let me just stop my screen share so people can see me. Say good evening. Introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name's David Cordova. I am the founder of Tornelo. Some of you I have met before in various other tournaments or some meetings where we've had some chats about how to use Tornelo as a pairings program, as a platform for running online chess tournaments. We've just got a couple more people joining. We were expecting somewhere between 30 and 40, so we're doing pretty well. If anybody has any questions during the course of the webinar, there will be time for questions at the end, so feel free to type your messages into the chat. I won't be able to answer those as we go, but I will review those all at the end. And there might be some community chat going on, so if you guys like to chat to one another and help each other ask and answer answer each other's questions, that would also be fine. This webinar is going to last about 45 minutes, and then there'll be time for questions after that. I've got about half an hour of things to say, and then we've got a guest who will be joining us from the United States. He'll be signing on in about half an hour's time, and we'll cut across to him and we'll ask him some questions about how he's used Tornelo to run some tournaments and collect some entry fees. I haven't spoken to him at all about this, so it's going to be a completely candid conversation. I don't know what he's going to say, so it's going to be interesting for me as well. So we'll see how that goes, and then that'll be it. So we've got a little bit of me talking. I like the sound of my own voice, so that'll be about half the session. Then we'll have about 15 minutes chat with Jesse from the United States, and then we'll give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions as well. And let's hope I can run on time. So we'll get back to the presentation. Hopefully everybody can hear and see me okay. And I'll just get my windows back up. Zoom is a little annoying that, you get your window layout and get all the chat and the participants lists and everything up in the spot that you want them to go. And then as soon as you turn off screen sharing, it rearranges everything. So I've got to now, is it rearrange a word? I'm not really sure. So I'm rearranging everything. So, all right, let's kick off very quickly about who we are, what Tornelo is. So Tornelo is a portmanteau. We combine two words together. We combine the word tournament and the word ELO, so for ELO ratings. And we combine those two words together, tournament and ELO, and that's where we got our name from, Tornelo. We are originally a pairings program. We were built as an online 100% cloud-based pairings program for running over-the-board events. And obviously when COVID started, believe it or not, nearly a year ago now, 9 months ago, we built an online game server to enable us to run online chess tournaments. We already had the pairings program, and so adding that online game server allowed us to be the only platform that is designed specifically purpose-built for organisers and arbiters to run scheduled what we call arbiter-led events. Tornelo has managed over 12,000 events over the last 10 or 12 years. So we've certainly been around for a while, even though the online stuff is new to all of us. The session that we're running today is really for organisers or chess coaches or streamers. So if you are just an arbiter and you're wanting to learn more about how to actually run tournaments, this may not be for you. It's about people who have a community of chess players and they are curating that community. So that means they're looking after that community in some way. All right, I won't say that you own a community. You can never own a community of chess players, but you can look after them and you can support them and give them what they want. So this may be useful for club captains or club presidents. If you're a chess club, you are curating a community of people who like to play chess at your club. You might be a chess coach and you've got a community of students that you work with. And an area of a group of people that I guess are just becoming kind of they're new to the chess scene is streamers. And so if you're a streamer on Twitch or a YouTuber or something like that, you will have a community of people who enjoy chess, and you're trying to provide those people with some sort of experiences. And so that's who we're talking to today. We're talking to people who want to create some sort of income stream from chess tournaments. And again, that might be a not-for-profit chess club, federation, association, or it might be a private business or a commercial entity as well that wants to actually create some revenues from chess tournaments. I will be assuming that you know at least the basics of how to run an event on Tornelo. So you know how to set up a tournament, you know how to do pairings, you know how to do all those sorts of things. And we're not going to touch on any of that. So if you haven't really seen anything about Tornelo before, we've got a draft user manual, which is soon to be released, and we can email you a draft version of that if you're interested. We've got some webinars, some previous webinars that are introductory sessions that show you the basics, and I'd suggest that you go and have a look at those to support what we're doing today. All right, so the first question is, why should you be running chess tournaments? Okay, if you're a chess club, if you're an association, that kind of goes without saying. That's what your members are there for. But if you're a chess business or a streamer or a chess coach, why is it that you want to run chess tournaments as opposed to just doing your chess coaching? And there are two, I think, critical things for me for chess tournaments that make them really valuable. One is that they are scalable. And that means that you can do more or you can earn more than what you are at the moment. So if you're working as a chess coach, you might be charging 30 euros, $40, $50, whatever your currency is. You're charging an amount of money per hour and you're working with your students. You're always limited by the number of hours that you have in the day or the number of hours that you're prepared to work. So if you wanted to scale, you can either try and charge more for your time, but you're competing with squillions of people all over the world who are trying to sell their services as chess coaches, and there's also kind of a natural limit for the players and the parents as to what they will see as value and therefore what they'll pay for an hour of chess coaching. So you'll always be limited. When you run chess tournaments are unlimited. You could have 20 people in a chess tournament, but you could have 50 people in a chess tournament, 100 people in a chess tournament, or 1,000 people in a chess tournament. So we've seen a chess school in India. We had 1,134 players in a single chess tournament. Right, so it is very scalable. That means you can get a lot more people. You can get a lot more money for the time that you're spending. Chess tournaments are also scalable. Leverage. You can leverage yourself. So what I'm saying when you talk about leverage is building a brand of a chess tournament. And there are many chess tournaments around the world that you know and love, whether they're, we've got Hastings in the UK or Golders Green. Adam's got a great tournament there that he's built a brand for, or whether it's a brand that's owned by FIDE, like a World Youth Championships or a European Championships. All of those events are brands. They are something which people come to value the event itself, not the person who's necessarily the arbiter or organizer or the person who's running that event. So if you can build an event brand over time, eventually it doesn't really matter who runs that tournament. You could be the president of a chess club. You build a really strong club event. When you retire as president and give the reins to somebody else, they can take on and continue that into the future. Right, so it's a leverageable experience. If you're a coach, you could get other people to run your tournament for you, and you don't have to actually be there, and you can still make some money as a business. All right, so, okay, it's clear why we want to run chess tournaments. Why do the players want to play in our chess tournaments? All right, this is really important starting point to understand and to think about, and to try and say, well, what is the value that you're giving to players so that they pay an entry fee to play in your tournament? And when we built Tornelo's online game server, we were really trying to run what I call scheduled events. And there's a big difference between scheduled and on demand. And all the other mega platforms that you would know and love, and that I know and love, they are all on demand chess websites. That's a site where you can go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can go and get a game of chess. Right? They are brilliant. Right? So on demand tends to become a commodity. All right, and so my analogy for this is music. So think about music. You can go to YouTube and you can listen to any song that you like, anytime that you like. You might have to watch an ad, but essentially it's free for you as the user to go and listen to a song. Right? That's the on-demand music. That's on-demand chess is the mega platforms that we play on. Right? Commodity. The opposite of that is what we call a scheduled event. So in music, that might be a rock concert, right? And even though it's the same exact song that you listen to, you're paying nothing on YouTube, and everyone's going, oh, gee, do I really have to pay $10 a month for Spotify? It might, gee, that's a bit expensive, right? But they'll pay 100 times that or 500 times that to go and see a live rock concert. People queue up 4 days, 5 days in advance to buy tickets to these events, to these experiences. They travel across the world to visit these scheduled events, right? They pay for accommodation and meals, and they pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to attend those things. And the difference is that they are an experience as opposed to a commodity, right? So we've got to think of our chess tournaments in the same way. If you're running chess tournaments on a mega platform, how are they different from the commodity experience that anybody can get anytime, day or night, 24/7, right? Anybody can go and play an arena tournament or a berserk tournament anytime they want. What is it that you're offering that is different? And so a scheduled event, to make it an experience for your players, has to have something unique. It has to have some sort of scarcity. Okay, so when I say unique, that means something that only you and only you can offer. Now that might be you're the only chess club in your suburb, and that's okay, right? Because you're that community and you're offering something unique. You are the Golders Green Chess Club. You are the Melbourne Chess Club, whatever it is that you're offering. It might be that you're offering something a unique in terms of a venue or dates. If you're running over the board tournaments, or location, you might be in a beautiful island in Corsica or something like that. And so that's the unique offering that you're putting up, and that's what's attracting people to join your event. You might be an age group tournament. So we run tournaments in Australia, and we have tournaments in odd numbered age groups, under 7s, 9s, 11s, 13s, 15s, because all the other tournaments run in even age groups. So we try and find something different to attract a group of people to be part of it. Scarcity is, and it can be artificial scarcity is also really valuable. It's the fact that there's only one of them. It's limited. Okay, so when we first started up running some of the Melbourne Chess Club tournaments online, we built in artificial scarcity. We said, well, the first tournament we're going to do online, we're going to have a maximum of 16 players, right? Artificial scarcity. Of course, we could have had more players, but by having something which is limited in numbers, it drives interest. People are like, oh, well, we want that because there's not much of it, right? Why are diamonds more valuable than coal? There's just not as much of it, right? It's the same atoms. Okay, so to make a chess tournament more valuable than a different chess tournament, you have to have something that is kind of unique and different, and you have to make it. Maybe it's only once a year, right? But if you just say, oh, we're going to have a blitz tournament every Tuesday, it's very hard to build value in a blitz tournament every Tuesday because it's always there. Okay, so artificial scarcity. With the Melbourne Chess Club, we started with 16. The next week we went to 32. The next week we went to 64. The next week we went to 128. And then we kind of reached the point where we thought, okay, this is the level that we wanted to maintain it at. And we dropped the idea of artificial scarcity, and we're getting a regular now, 50 to 60 people coming along on a weekly basis. The value that you provide is about community and belonging, right? So even if you're not a club or an association that people belong to, they will still feel belonging to your event. So one of my favorite chess tournaments in Australia is called the Ballarat Begonia Open. And it's got some some sense of belonging to me. Like, I enjoy that tournament, right? I enjoy the venue. I enjoy the people who go there, and all the people who go there, we are people who play in that tournament, and that's how we kind of identify, right? I'm not the sort of person who goes and plays in the Sydney International Open. I'm the sort of person who goes and plays in the Ballarat Begonia Festival, right? Because there's something a little bit different. Like I said, something about those events that appeal to me more than the events in Sydney. Maybe it's location, maybe it's the people, maybe it's the structure of the tournament. It doesn't really matter. You are building a community of people, and a community takes time, and you want people to feel like they belong to that. And it all starts with a story. So as we've transitioned from over the board tournaments to online tournaments through COVID, the story has been very easy. People have said, well, we used to run this tournament over the board, now we're running it online. And they've been able to transition meaning from like a tournament like the European Youth Championships. Well, it runs every year, and it's run every year for the last however many years. We're going to now do that online. And so you automatically got all those players coming across because they already believed in the story. They saw that it was meaningful. While Tornelo can run over the board events and online events, and so everything I talk about here is equally applicable to over the board events, face-to-face tournaments or hybrid events. And I really believe that hybrid events are going to be huge in the future. If your club or federation or organisers are not already thinking about hybrid tournaments for post-COVID, which is hopefully, fingers crossed, not too far away, thanks to some of these vaccines. If you're not thinking about hybrid tournaments, you should be, okay? Because hybrid tournaments give the best of both worlds, all right? So I'll talk a bit more about what people are looking for, and you'll see how they get the best of both worlds with the hybrid tournaments. So why would you run an online-only event? And there are some real advantages to online-only events from a business perspective. So from a commercial perspective, the players really value the convenience of online. Okay, and so there's this kind of battle that goes on. What you lose is obviously the social interaction, right? But what you gain is convenience, and that trade-off is different for every single person. But what we found is that entry fees for an online tournament sit somewhere between 50%, anything up to the same entry fee as the players would normally play. So we've got an organizer in New Zealand who runs a number of junior tournaments. And he runs a junior tournament called the Sarapu Cup. Okay, so this gives you an idea about how he's created meaning. Ortvan Sarapu was New Zealand's best chess player. He was an international master. He was, he was like the grandfather of chess in New Zealand. New Zealand's a very small chess country. And so the organizer wanted to kind of pay some respect to that grandfather of chess, and was able to create a nice story, and people want to play in that event because it's got some connection to history and to a strong player, and they're paying respect to that player by playing in that tournament. When COVID came along, that event, which would run the last Sunday of every month, obviously couldn't run over the board anymore. And so Paul transitioned that event to an online event, and he charged the same entry fee as he was charging for over the board tournaments. And he actually got more players playing in that event. And just to put that in perspective, I think he charges 25 New Zealand dollars. So 25 New Zealand dollars might be like about 15 euros, something like that, to give you a bit of an idea, sort of in that 10 to 15 euros would be the price range. So it's not a very expensive tournament. 15 euros. It's a 7-round tournament, runs it over the course of an afternoon, but he was able to charge the same entry fee, and there was no equipment costs, no physical venue costs. It's so much less time. There's no setup time, pack down time. Your venue, Tornelo becomes the venue for you. So there's hardly any cost on venue. The expectation of prizes is very different. And this is something to be really aware of, is that online, because people are in this digital environment, they actually are equally as happy with a digital certificate, a digital trophy that you would normally be paying money for, to print a physical certificate, to actually buy a plastic trophy. All right, so forget the environmental impacts and the disastrous nature of that, and how we could be much more environmentally friendly by providing digital awards. But digital awards are actually equally as valuable to the players because it's what they represent. Those digital awards represent an acknowledgement of success, it's like you did really well, congratulations. So your cash prize is going to be far lower online as well, if any at all, and it's just 1,000 times easier to organize, especially with what Tornelo can do. So the over the board tournaments, what you're losing is the social aspect. Do you need to provide the same experience, or can you provide the same experience as an over the board tournament in an online tournament? I think you should always be aiming to try and get to as good an experience for the players as if they were in an over the board tournament, but you don't have to provide the same level of experience to charge the same entry fees, because people have got convenience, right? And whether that's convenience of travel in a short distance, you don't want to drive 15 minutes to the local chess club to play in a tournament, you're going to stay at home, you can look after your kids at the same time as playing in a chess tournament, or whether that's you don't want to fly from Perth to Sydney, or from London to Rome to play in a chess tournament, in terms of the convenience and cost savings there. So I think you need to be kind of 80%. People are coming to over the board tournaments to play competitive games. They can still get competitive games online. They're coming for the socialization and the sense of belonging. And it's proven that people can feel a sense of belonging, and they can get that social engagement online. We have to work harder in an online tournament to actually build that social aspect, as we recognize that the socialization is the hardest part to actually deliver online. We can still provide the same recognition for people who are winning. We can still give them the same competitive experience where they're playing and competing. We can still give them the same celebration of learning, where they feel like they're improving and they're demonstrating their improvement, whether that's to themselves, to their parents, to their peers. They want to demonstrate their improvement, and they can win something, some sort of award. And like I said, I think that should be digital, and digital is sufficient. I don't know how many people in this session are gamers, or have got kids who play Fortnite and other games online, but people are paying real money to buy like a digital hat for their character to wear on the internet, right? So you can't say that, oh no, you need a physical trophy. It's absolutely not the case. People are paying real money to buy digital items all over the place. Okay, so it's just what it represents. If you haven't got tournaments already, like if you're not a club or an association or someone who can transition over the board tournaments into an online environment, how would you start? And I would suggest that you start by telling a story. So this is more for, like, if you're a streamer, if you're a chess coach, you have a community of people, but you haven't been running chess tournaments yet, I would start with a story. Come up with a name, something unique, something that kind of has some meaning. So when we started some tournaments in Australia, I can give you some examples of some of the ones that I've started. We started the RJ Shield. It was an event named after Robert Jamison, who was my chess coach. So the RJ Shield had some meaning. There was a story behind it. And people could say, oh, cool, like David's my chess coach. I want to be like him. Like I'm working towards that level of chess playing capabilities. Okay, his coach was Robert Jamison. Then I'm going to go and play in that tournament. And there's that same, then there's sort of a sense of connection. I guess that's similar to the New Zealand tournament. We had a tournament that that was kind of unique. I called it the Cordova Challenge, where the kids would play in this tournament and they could play against me. Right, so I would play in the tournament and I would give them a massive time handicap, and there'd be a special prize if you could beat me. Now, obviously there were 60 or 70 or 100 people playing in that tournament, and only 7 of them would get to play me because it's a 7-round tournament. But it gave the event some sort of something unique and different, and like, oh, that was cool. Maybe don't start with something too different and too unique. Don't make it too complicated to start off with, because you need to get people to understand how the whole system works. So you probably don't want to run something complicated like, there's 9 different knockout stages and they all lead to a qualifying round robin, and then the top 3 people in a qualifying round robin get bonus points from the previous 12 rounds. And you could do that in time, but start off with do something simple and kind of unique, and build up your event over time. And I can give you examples of how we've done that as well. Tornelo provides a fully integrated solution for all of the steps in running an online tournament, and I'm going to show you all of those steps now, just very, very briefly. Okay, so the first thing that you'll need to do is to be able to collect money. Okay, so let's just put. Okay, so all tournaments on Tornelo are owned by an organization. Right? An organization is the brand that owns the tournaments, a club, a federation, a business, whatever that might be. You've got this button, once you've created your organization, you've got this button here, set up payments. You'll click on that and you'll connect your Tornelo account with an online credit card gateway. At the moment, Tornelo supports only one gateway, which is Stripe. So if you have an account on Stripe, and Stripe is probably more popular in America, in some European countries, in Australia. It's probably not that popular in South America, Central America, Asian countries might not be so familiar with Stripe, but Stripe just processes credit card payments. Stripe is the only system that at the moment Tornelo supports. In about a month's time, we'll be integrating with PayPal as well. So if you can't collect money at the moment, or you don't want to go through the effort of setting up a Stripe account, it is pretty easy. You can also just wait a little while, and we'll be able to integrate with PayPal, and everybody's familiar. The money comes in through Tornelo into your bank accounts. Tornelo does charge a fee. This is how we run our business. Is we take a transaction fee from everybody who runs. Who collects an entry fee through Tornelo, right? So we save you lots of time and energy and money, and make you, in the end of the day, hopefully help you to provide bigger and better tournaments for your customers, and then we share in the value there. Okay, so we share when you take a transaction. We at the moment take a 2.75% transaction fee. So yeah, Stripe is the only system that we're using at the moment. But you'll have on that same page in the near future PayPal as well, and I know that PayPal will be kind of a much more global, a global opportunity for people. I know that like Stripe doesn't work in India, for example, and so yeah, PayPal will work everywhere. So once you come to that page, you'll simply click the button Set up Stripe for your organization, and that will take you off to the Stripe page. I can't actually go through the whole process because you have to kind of set up the Stripe account, but you would simply log into Stripe. And when you've logged into Stripe and you authorize Tornelo, then everything's set up. Okay, so you've created your Stripe account. The next step will be to connect in your tournament. Okay, so this is our tournament settings page. We scroll down to the bottom, our online entries, and you simply connect your Stripe account. Okay, so I've got multiple Stripe accounts listed because I'm an administrator on multiple organizations, but you'll only have the one Stripe account. You'll be able to select that Stripe account. You can either, if no payments, or your Stripe account. And again, that will be where you would select your PayPal account. And that says that's the account, the bank account that the money is going to go into. We've got multiple different types of entry fees that you can use. So you can have as many different entry fees as you like. You can call it, seniors discount. You can have a special entry fee for juniors, whatever entry fees you like. Okay, so you can charge all sorts of different amounts for different for different players. Those entry fees are self-selecting, so the players will just choose their own entry fee during the entry process. So it is kind of an honor system, but if somebody chooses the $1 entry fee because that's for grandmasters and they're not a grandmaster, it's very easy for you to update their entry fee. You don't have to have that awkward conversation and say, oh, look, I'm sorry, Mike, I think you've accidentally chosen the wrong entry fee or deliberately chosen the wrong entry fee. Our experience is that people just don't do that. They buy the right product. So you can also allow entries without a payment. So if you were running an over-the-board event, you might see those people showing up and you know that you get the money before they actually play the event. So you might allow people to enter the tournament without actually paying at the time of entry. I'm a big fan of trying to get all the money in one go in advance, and better to have the money than to have people who have no shows and they're or chasing money afterwards, which is an incredible cost. And the cost of chasing the money afterwards with your time and effort is always more than the amount of entry fee that you're charging. So once you've set that, let's go back to the event itself, and I'll show you some of the management features in Tornelo. So in this tournament, we've got all of these. You can see green numbers, and so those tell you the entry fee that people have paid. So these are invoices, if you like. So we've got one person who hasn't paid their invoice, right? And you can see that they've got the $1 entry fee. If we change it to 0, then it will show up that they've paid 0, but they're green now. Green means you're good, you've paid everything that's owed, right? But if we want to just simply change the entry fee, it now costs money, it's owed $1 and it's red. So it's in one place. I think it's really important to have a single source of truth. The amount of time and effort that it takes you to collect money into a bank account, reconcile the bank account with the entry list, take the entry list, copy and paste the entry list into a pairings program. Okay, maybe you're a chess club and you've got free time because you've got volunteers who are working for you. Think about what's the opportunity cost of their time, right? Because it's hours and hours and hours of work. Even for a 10-player tournament, right? It would take you a number of hours to go through and collect the money in a different system and then transfer money from one platform to another. If you miss just one entry fee, you're behind straight away on any percentage that you would have paid as a transaction fee. So, online, it's quick, it's easy for the players and the parents. It's easy for you as an organizer to see exactly who's paid and who hasn't paid. If somebody hasn't paid, it's also easy. There's just a click, there's a single button. There's an empty space here because we're on staging, and staging is our practice event, so we don't actually send emails. But there's normally a button here that says send an email. You click that button, it sends the player an email and says your invoice is due. They click on the email and then they can pay their invoice. All right, I can show you that when they log in. This is Elijah Cordova, that's my son. So you can see a notification icon. I'm like, what's that notification icon? I go and check it out. I'm like, oh yeah, there's an invoice outstanding, okay? Or if I'm on my dashboard, which is the page that everybody gets to see when they first log in, there's a big message at the top saying we're awaiting payment. So Tornelo provides that follow-up to chase the players that they haven't paid their entry fees, so that you don't have to do that, right? When it comes to, then they just click the button, it takes them into the page, there's their money, they click the button, they can pay with, actually we support Google Pay and Apple Pay now through this process. So they can actually just pay with their face, just if they're on the phone, they just smile at the phone and the money goes through the system. Okay, so super easy. You can delete invoices, add invoices. You can add and delete money from invoices as well if you want to with this credit. So a credit, you can add a positive or a negative credit, and you can adjust the amount of money that's owing. So maybe you want to sell somebody a book as well, and you're like, well, how do I collect the $10 for the book that I've just sold, or a chess coaching lesson or something? You can just credit the invoice, put negative $50 in there. There's an extra $50 that's on their invoice, and they'll pay that. And at the end of the tournament, you've got a financial report as well, so you can reconcile everything, and it shows you exactly where all your money is come and gone to and from. So that's the features that Tornelo has for managing payments. And our goal as Tornelo is to be everything end to end. So you create the tournament, takes you a few seconds to create a tournament. You set up the amounts of entry fees that you want to charge. The tournament, you can copy and paste a link onto Facebook, and it becomes really, really easy for all of your players. They come to the page, they register, they come back to the same page, they play in that tournament, right? It's always just one link, and it's, you know, that becomes where they come to play their tournament lobby. That's where they come to play their rounds. That's where they can come. It's the same page later on to view the standings. Everything's just all in the one place. All right, so let's just go back to, okay, so that's Tornelo's goal, is to be end-to-end, one system, to manage your entire tournament experience, or your players' entire tournament experience. Entries, registrations, pairings, online games, offline, hybrid, results, emailing results afterwards, all the rest of it. Okay, so just very quickly, how do you make a really great tournament? Okay, you've got to think of it as an experience. We've talked about doing something unique. We've talked about trying to keep some like something social. When one of the principles that I try and think of is to create an experience. I think about 100% engagement 100% of the time. That means I want all of the players in the tournament engaged all the time. I want some sort of eventification. I want some sort of celebration. So in my over-the-board tournaments, we have roving magicians, live music, balloons, streamers, fireworks. We haven't had fireworks, but we've had fire eaters and fire jugglers at our live chess tournaments, right? So how can you put those same sorts of things into your online tournaments? Okay, so as an example, we ran a tournament. It's called the Victorian Youth Championships. It's sort of a state level event for kids. We got about 120 players playing in that, and we set up the tournament where, okay, they're there for 2 full days, and we wanted to try and engage 120 kids for 2 full days. Now, I'm assuming that most of you know kids and know kids in chess tournaments. They might be finished in 10 minutes. Right, so we've got 7 games across 2 days, and at 7 games over 2 days, how are we going to keep people busy for 12 hours when they might only be playing chess for 2 hours out of that 12 hours? What are we going to do for the other 10 hours of time to engage the players? Okay, so you can have lunch breaks, and that gets rid of a couple of hours. What we did was we created in our Zoom meeting, which is where we supervise the players, we created a breakout room, which we called a social room. So the players would stay in the main Zoom meeting, and they would play in their tournament. That's where we could supervise those players. In that main Zoom meeting, we had some light commentary. And the light commentary was just about like interviews with players. It was chatting about how the tournament's progressing. We didn't do very much in the way of formal coaching. We didn't do very much talking about games in progress, because players were actually obviously potentially in the tournament and listening even while they're playing. Obviously, most of them would just mute their speakers so that they're not distracted while they're playing their games. But there was kind of a light commentary and a conversation going, and we encouraged the players to stand up for interviews. And so we could talk to them and say, hey, John, hey, Angela, like, come and have a chat to us. Like, where are you from? Like, what school do you go to? How long have you been playing chess? Making it a little bit of a personal experience and building that social aspect of the game, so people felt more like they belonged to this event and this community of players. Okay, so that was our kind of main room. Sorry, we've got a guest, so I'm going to put our guest on in just a second. So we also had a second room, which was a social room. Players could just navigate to that social room as a breakout room whenever they wanted to, or you could have different buttons in Tornelo and put them in a social room. In that social room, we had music, we had games, non-chess games. We had somebody in there just monitoring a social situation. Okay, so there was that social. We then had a second entry fee. The first entry fee was $50 to play in the tournament. We had a second entry fee, which was $75. And then we had a whole separate special Zoom room, which was a coaching Zoom room. So you pay a little bit more, you go into this coaching room, and there we were doing formal coaching. We had puzzles and we had end games and we had game analysis of games that were in progress. We were doing formal coaching in that room. And then we had another entry fee, which was even more expensive. And for that higher tier of entry fee, you got a different Zoom meeting where you could go in there and get one-on-one coaching, and the coach would analyze your game. So you'd say, hey, I just finished my game, here's my score sheet, and you would analyze that game. So what can you do to make the event an experience? Sometimes you can do that commentary, you can do the upsell to coaching, and that organizer or the arbiter can become kind of the star of the show if you're doing everything yourself. We do have a guest, National Master Jesse Cohen. Jesse and I know each other from many years back when Jesse was a chess player and came and visited Australia and took part in a coaching kind of tour of Australia. And we bumped into each other on Facebook, and I said, Jesse, you're running chess coaching, why don't you do some online tournaments? So I haven't had a conversation with Jesse about this for a while. We certainly haven't planned anything. Jesse, can you say hi? Can we get you on camera as well? I can't hear you at all, Jesse, at the moment. No, we don't have Jesse.
Can you hear me now?
Got you now. Absolutely. So excellent. Thank you for coming along. And I just wanted you to share with people what you've done over the last how many months have you been running online chess tournaments, and kind of tell us your story.
So when the pandemic hit in March of last year, I had been teaching. So I'm out of Colorado, USA, for those who don't know. I've been running chess in school programs for the last 8 years, and had started running tournaments with like maybe less than 10 players in a cafeteria 8 years ago. And right before the pandemic, we had tournaments as big as 80 live in a hotel. And then the pandemic hit, wasn't sure what to do. So got on Zoom, started doing all the group lessons, but it was like, okay, well, I want to keep this alive, and wasn't sure how to go about it. And then thankfully we reconnected. And so got set up on Tornelo probably, I want to say this last summer, and I wasn't sure how to utilize it at first. And so I started doing a weekly blitz tournament. And I was averaging, like, I think there was a good novelty at first, had like 15, 20 players, and it kind of died down to about 10. And then I thought to myself, I think I'll just use Tornelo, since it's such an easy to use system, and basically the only option, unless I want to scrap my annual tournament series, to do it online. And so I announced it, and I've been running. I have an 8 tournament series. It started in September. It'll go through May. And so one Saturday a month now, we meet for a 5-round game in 24 plus 5. There's 3 scholastic divisions for under 800, under 1,000, under 1,400. And there's also an open division where anybody of any age and skill level can play. While we've had some chats about prizes and whatnot, and I definitely agree with you that, one of the biggest driving factors that makes people come to these is the community. I definitely believe that that these things can be built organically, even online. But I do think that I got a little bit of a head start only because I did have a tournament series in place before all this happened. And so basically it was the same people. They're just like, well, where do I play chess now? I was like, oh, well, I've got an option for you. And so actually, surprisingly, what went from, like, am I going to hold a tournament this week? Do I have even 10 people for the Blitz tournament? Brought back the normal tournament series. And this last tournament, last Saturday, we had 51 players. The tournament before that, we had 53 players. And so, I mean, considering that we were getting 80 players maximum when we were in person, to be getting, 2/3 of those numbers online without the overhead of paying to rent out a space, without a lot of that overhead, it's actually become more profitable than my 8 years not total, but more profitable at the moment than my live tournaments were before.
So can you tell us, Jesse, what is your entry fee that you're charging for that online tournament?
So we talked about this a little at first as well, because I naturally thought that I needed to charge less money because it was an online tournament. I felt that I wasn't giving the participants the value. And so I thought about charging it lower, but after our talk, I decided just to go for it. So actually, for my Scholastic division, it's $25 to play if you register no more than a week in advance. So if you register a week or more in advance, 25, less than a week, 30. For the open section, it's the same thing, 35 and 40.
And what does that compare with when you were running over the board tournaments? Is that the same entry fee?
It's the same. It's
The
exactly
same.
the same. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And
so
yeah.
you're able to run the same entry fee, but an online tournament instead of and obviously, you know, you've now got, I'm just having a look at your numbers, and the last 3 tournaments, you've got 49, 53, 51. So you're obviously providing good value because you've got people coming back. What are you doing to kind of make it a good experience for those players? Like, how do you think about that, and how do you build the community and make a good experience?
Well, talking to you also gave me a lot of great ideas. So basically, you know, normally during a tournament, I would be spending so much time basically just sitting at my desk, making sure to receive results, answer any questions, you know, like, I mean, you know, super stressful right before the tournament. And then it's kind of, you know, we all know what it's like to run a tournament. Like it gets a lot easier after the first round is settled in, but you know, you always have to be pretty available. But with Tornelo, you know, it saves me so much time. And so I was like, what am I going to do with that time? Basically what I do is I do a lot of commentary. I have had to make some adjustments over time. I have had players tell me that they would prefer I don't do commentary while games are live. And so, typically, when the first rounds start, I'm a little bit quiet at first, but then as games get done, I will take opportunities to interview players, to review their games, sometimes just chat about whatever. I try to find little fun ways to keep it entertaining. You know, I'll be like, hey, who wants to do some trivia of the day? Or does anyone have any good riddles? Or, you know, tell me about who taught you how to play chess. You know, just trying to get these players engaged and having fun. And I mean, like one time we had like, you know, the players that were playing, we literally had like a half an hour talk about what kind of breakfast cereals or what kind of breakfast they think is best for their chess game. And we all concluded that if you have something that involves both bread and sugar, you're going to do better. But I mean, but it was fun. It was light. And so, yeah, like we talked about before, instead of having to worry so much about managing all these questions and all these little details of the tournament, which Tornelo saves me so much time. Instead, I just kind of get to be a coach. I get to be an entertainer. I get to just kind of get to know my players better than I ever have because I have that time to do so. Whereas before I'd just be busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So what do you do with prizes? Like you've got this series of 8 tournaments. So do you play in those 8 tournaments and then qualify for a grand final? And there's like, what's the prize structure that you've got?
So what I've got right now is, and I debated about this for a long time because typically, you know, I would be doing trophies, but frankly, the astronomical costs of shipping individual trophies to so many different addresses. I mean, it was going to be outrageous. So, but I did want there to be some prizes. So what I have at the moment is for my 3 Scholastic sections, if there's at least 6 players to those divisions, then first place is a $40 gift card to Amazon. Second place is 30, and third place is 20. And then thankfully, I was able to maintain the same price structure that I had for my open division at hotels, which is 80% of the entry fees. So I believe this last time we had 19 players, including 2 masters and 3 experts. And I believe first place was around $200. And actually, you know, something else that's been nice about Tornelo is for the most part, I would say 95% of the players coming to the tournaments are people that were already coming to my stuff. But I think because of Tornelo and maybe playing in other tournaments or whatever, I have had some people from like the last 2 tournaments, a wonderful young man named Kartavya Nadkat from India has been showing us Colorado players what's up and taking first place both times. And so, it's really neat, in some ways, this is affording us opportunities that we would never otherwise have. I've been thinking to myself now, because I do run both Scholastic and the open section, typically, it could be a big drawing feature to have a strong player show up to your tournament, but it can involve so many things from organizing airfare to hotel. But with an online tournament, it can be so easy and avoid so many costs and yet get them here.
Yeah, that's great. So have you got any plans to expand, or can you see some opportunities? Like what are your future plans for the chess tournaments for Summit?
So definitely, obviously, the monthly tournament has been a big success, and I will continue that. It really, I've been considering bringing back the Blitz tournament as well. I really do believe that you can make any kind of schedule here work. I mean, I think you, David, you run I think multiple daily tournaments, and so I think that the reason that my monthly tournaments are so big is because that's what I got people used to for 8 years. And you've been doing this for at least 15 on Tornelo yourself. And so, yeah, I do plan to bring back the Blitz at some point and just more consistently hang in there. And it'll take some time to build it up, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to put that time in.
Yeah, I think so. We do run a daily tournament. We run a chess tournament. We only through COVID we called it chess at 4 p.m. So yeah, it is definitely much harder to maintain good numbers of players at a chess at 4 p.m. like a daily tournament than it is at a weekly tournament or monthly tournament or an annual tournament, and that's simply because of scarcity. If it's only once a year, it's rare. It's only once a year, so you have to make an effort to go. If it's every single day, you don't have to make such an effort to go. So people often go, oh yeah, well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it next time. We'll get to it next time. We'll get to it next time. So yeah, definitely having some sort of limited availability, like it's only once a year or it's once a month, I think makes it easier to get players to. Yeah, so look, I know you've got to kind of head off pretty soon. Are there any sort of words of advice that you would give to people, whether they're at clubs or coaches or streamers, in terms of getting started and running online tournaments? What things should they be thinking about as they get going? We've got a question about time controls. Fair play would obviously be a big question. Is there anything else that you can share that's kind of been, your, big success factor, for example, that you like? Yeah, everyone else should also be thinking about this.
Something that I don't know if it's made a gigantic impact, but it definitely has made some impact, and it has been a profitable decision, is usually about a week or two prior to my tournament, I will do a Facebook ad campaign, which is like, it could be like $20 and it could reach like 2,000 people. And if even one or two people come to the tournament as a result of that, then that's it's not like I'm reaping in the cash, but all these little ways. And so also, obviously I have my email blast that I've been trying to regularly connect with over the years. To answer some of the other questions, just so you know, my format is 5 rounds of game in 24 plus 5. I did consider at first having it be officially ranked. However, I think we all know, and yes, I know that COVID seems to have brought out the worst in cheating in terms of what we hear about, but I still think that the reality is that the suspicion of cheating is far greater than the actuality of it, which is why I really, I definitely encourage people to use the fair play report. For the most part, I don't have to worry about it. It's only been a couple times where we've had people that are not part of our community come in and win a prize, and I will be using the fair play a bit more, and personally examining those games to make sure that everything seems legit. And so far, there's been a couple things where I'm like, oh, that's suspicious, but ultimately we haven't had to do anything like that. My biggest, I guess, advice would be is to, And you and I talked about this as well, is getting feedback from the clients and finding out what they want, but also realizing that, we also kind of know what they want, if that makes sense. And so, you get 10 different opinions, go 10 different ways. And so ultimately, like I said, if you are a person who has already been running tournaments, I highly recommend, based on my experience, that you try to keep it as identical to what you were running. And that's what Tornelo is great for, is that it tries to create that experience that is as close to an in-person experience as possible. So that's why I have identical time format. I have identical price structure for the open section. I did sub out the price structure that would normally be trophies. And then the only other thing that's changed is the fact that instead of having to sit behind a desk and just making sure everyone is nice and quiet, instead I'm able to engage with the people. And I would definitely say, that is, just like you were saying, earlier, what do you do with 10 hours of free time? You got to find a way to entertain them somehow and keep them happy. I mean, you don't have to, but they'll definitely come back a lot more because people remember the most how they feel, right? And so if they're feeling happy and to be there because they're enjoying themselves and being interacted with, they're going to come back.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that that it's kind of horses for courses is the saying. That every tournament has a specific audience, and not every person likes the same music. Not everyone's going to go to the same concerts. Some are going to go to a rock concert and some's going to go to a classical music festival. So your chess tournaments can be the same. There are some people who want to play fast chess, and there are some people who want to play slow chess. There are some people who want, lots of commentary and social stuff happening while the games are going. So build your events for a very specific niche of people. In fact, there's sometimes there's this saying in business, which is, if you try and catch everybody, you really catch nobody. And so target your marketing and the structure and the schedule of your tournament to a smaller niche as you can actually make it a commercially viable experience, right? If you had 500 children between the age of 8 and 9 who wanted to play Blitz, you would run an 8-year-old's Blitz tournament, right? And it would, if there was enough people for it. So yeah, definitely. I think that's really really important. My view on time controls. I've tended to move to a faster time control online than over the board tournaments. So like the tournament that we had, a 2-day tournament, we were playing 25 plus 10 seconds a move, but when we were playing that same tournament over the board, we were playing 60-10. So we have, as we've moved across from over the board to online, we've sped things up a little bit. I do think people are a little bit faster, less patient, I guess, when it comes to online. And also remember, if people finish a game early, what are they going to do in that period of time when they're waiting for everybody else to, if they have a short game, what are they going to be doing in the meantime? Jesse, it looks like you've got somebody behind you. I know you've got kids to deal with. Thank you very much for coming along. We'd love to hear more about how you're progressing over time. But look, thanks for sharing your time with us today. We'll see you again. Thanks a lot, Jesse. All right. So yeah, Jesse is I think a great example for me of somebody who has been able to actually get a lot of value out of these online chess tournaments. I've got one more slide, and then we'll throw the floor open to questions. I will say that yes, if you have come in late or you're leaving early, there will be a recording of this. It's being recorded. It's also live on Facebook, so it's being streamed onto Facebook, and so you'll be able to see it either on Facebook or wait for the YouTube, which will cut out the boring bits at the start with just the music. So the last thing I wanted to say was that your event does not finish when the last round finishes. Right, and this is I won't say a mistake, but it's something which a lot of people kind of misinterpret when their job as a tournament organizer finishes. It is not when the last round finishes by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so the last round is the end of the tournament for the players, but you still need to share your results with the results with the players. Okay, you can just click one button on Tornelo and it emails all the players their results at the end of the tournament. But then you also need to do some social media reporting, share and celebrate the winners, report on social media about what happened, review your own performance, like what happened in the tournament, what can you do better, how can you change things next time, and build your database. So if you had 50 players playing in your tournament, how are you going to get 52 players next time, right? Which means you've got to bring back 45 of the players who came last time, plus get 10 new players coming in. All right, my math isn't very good if that adds up to 52. I will say in Tornelo, and I'll just share this one with you quickly as well, that at the end of your tournament, in the pairings program, you have got a report. Oh, sorry, we've just moved it into the tournament lobby. You've got a report where you export your entries as a CSV file. So that means you can collect all your entries online, and when you export the entries, you'll get the email address, the phone number, the name of the player, and you can add those names and emails and phone numbers to your database. Okay, so some of the other mega platforms, you might feel like it's good promotion. You know, you put a tournament up on a mega portal, you can get other people seeing it, they can enter your tournament. The problem is that when they enter your tournament, it's just them playing in that one tournament. How are you going to capture them and incorporate them in your community for all time? Okay, so you can do that on Tornelo. You just export your emails, you add them to like a MailChimp or whatever your email, and you start building your community over time. And of course, planning and promotion for your next event. Your database, okay, so Luke, we'll come to some of those questions. So planning and promotion for your next event. So you should be talking to the players who've played in your event about when the next one's happening straight away. Okay, so thanks, Jesse. We're going to do some questions, and let me just go through some of the questions that I have seen already in the chat and see if I can answer some of those. So I'm going to kind of go backwards through the list that's here. And Luke, you've just talked about GDPR. All right, GDPR and privacy is really important, and I think Tornelo takes that very seriously, and we have a number of different privacy controls over the information that is displayed publicly. So the players themselves have got the right to keep their name hidden. Now, I don't know that there are many other platforms that will allow you to use people with a real name, but hide their name. Okay, so you can have a private tournament, or individual players have got privacy settings available. So you can combine those two things together. You can have a public tournament, but some players private. When it comes to GDPR and email marketing, if somebody purchases something from you, then you have implied consent. They've started a business relationship, and you can send them an email. There are disclosures when the players register for the tournament that tells them exactly what's going to happen. And so GDPR is all about being fully transparent to your customers about what you're going to do with the information that you're collecting, why you're collecting it, what you're going to do with it, what information you hold, and of course, the right to be forgotten if they want to be forgotten. We are definitely GDPR compliant in all sorts of really important ways. We do tell the players when they register that the organizer of the tournament, that is you, will receive their email address, and you then have permission to email them. It may be implied permission at this stage because they've entered into a business transaction with you, and some people might feel like they want to be more explicit in terms of asking players, do you consent to receiving marketing information? And we are adding some of those more explicit permissions so that they can say, well, yes, I want to be played. I want to do this, yes or no. So that's that. Okay, good questions about fair play. So as you've heard from Jesse, and fair play is different in a community event from a public event, and I will just anecdotally, I mean, we've run across COVID just in, in Australian tournaments, probably a few hundred tournaments. And then I've overseen through Tornelo, many times that. What you've heard from Jesse is that when you've got a community of players that knows one another, they see one another, in over the board tournaments, or have seen one another in over the board tournaments previously, fair play is a lot less of a challenge. And we saw that with the Melbourne Chess Club when we first started. The players who were playing on a regular basis, they were the ones who were going to do the right thing because they knew each other. They were all friends, right? And of course, one person plays all of a sudden, 200 points, 300 points, 400 points higher rated than they've always played before. Everyone else is going to straight away know without even needing to look at any of the statistics. So fair play, in my view, comes in three stages. We've got the environment that is conducive to fair play. We've got the supervision of players while they're playing the games, and then we've got a verification process afterwards to check that everything that we did in those first two stages was on track. Okay, sometimes we fail, and sometimes you do get players who get assistance during their games, and that's obviously really important to identify those players and either change their behavior immediately or weed them out of the tournaments and not accept them into your community. In the long run, and there's some really great visualizations of the kind of the building of trust over time or the erosion of trust over time, which you can see on some of the blog posts that I've put about cheating. You can look through those. So Tornelo has an inbuilt report. It's called a fair play report. It's probably most similar to Kenneth Reagan's reports, if you know Kenneth Reagan's work, and it shows you on a round by round basis all of the statistics about the players in that tournament. So what that's designed to do round by round is give you a clue as to who you should be supervising more closely. Who should you have a conversation with? If we're talking about low stakes tournaments, if we're talking about, we're not talking about $100,000 prize money. We're talking about low stakes community events, even up to national events. Having conversations with players during the event and kind of letting them know that you're kind of onto them makes a huge difference. And to my mind, if you have, after 2 rounds, or 3 rounds, you've seen somebody who's got very, very high statistics, you have a conversation with them, and for the rest of the tournament, they go back and play normally. The fact that they got some advice in the first 3 games, they got some, they cheated, and I don't like using the word cheating because it is cheating, but I don't want to be out there looking for cheaters and trying to catch people who are cheating. I'm trying to build a community of people who trust one another and who play fairly because that's the right thing to do. And as soon as I talk about trying to catch people who are cheating, it becomes a combative environment rather than a collaborative environment. And I want to be on the same side as the players. So if I see somebody who after 2 or 3 games has got very high statistics, I can see that their numbers are they're way too good for what they're able to do themselves. I have a conversation with them. I tell them that I'm going to supervise them a little bit more closely for the next few games so that at the end of the tournament, I can support them if there are any accusations of unfair play. And funnily enough, their statistics improve. They go back to normal, right? And I've changed somebody's behavior. So if you can have conversations, which you can do in a community, if you can change people's behavior, I think that's a win. And I'm prepared to allow somebody to cheat for 2 or 3 games if it means that they're going to play fair for the rest of their life because they've had that conversation. And so I approach fair play in the same way that I think that the policing community would approach graffiti. You can't catch every person who graffitis. You're certainly not going to throw every person who graffitis on a wall into prison because that's going to cause more problems than it solves. What you want to try and do is create an environment where people feel safe to walk the streets at night. Will there be a little bit of graffiti? Yes, there will. Is that okay? Well, if you've achieved your goal of building a community of people who enjoy playing with one another and trust one another, then the fact that there's a little bit of graffiti, I think, is okay. What you'll find, if everybody is suspicious, if everybody is, if there's this negative emotion around the whole tournament all the time, you are going to, in the end, you're just going to turn everybody off playing online chess, right? And I think there's such an opportunity for online chess and hybrid tournaments. It's not about preventing cheating. It's about managing it. It's about eliminating the top 2 or 3 people who are doing it blatantly. It's about building a community where everybody trusts one another. And we ran a series of I think we ended up with about 40 or 50 schools competitions, starting in April of 2020, so really early in the pandemic. And my expectation was, it's a schools competition. There's no prizes whatsoever. There's no kudos. It's a 15-minute games. Like nobody would really. There's no incentive to cheat. The thing is, what I realized was that people are not getting assistance because there's an incentive. They're getting assistance because it's impulse control problem. It's just too easy to get the help, right? But once we had more conversations, we have a fair play report, and it became the culture of the events not to get any assistance. We had a 600-player junior event with 3 arbiters or something like that, run online, and there was not a single instance of unfair play. 100% fair play with 600 kids, and kids are the most demographically likely to get assistance, because they're the ones who have got the biggest impulse control problems, right? And that's why teenagers, are teenagers, right? Anyone who knows teenagers, they're just teenagers. So I think it's impulse control, it's culture, it's community, and if you can get it right, we've shown this. It's possible to certainly, if not eliminate, to at least manage the fair play so that everybody feels very comfortable playing in that environment. And yeah, you might occasionally get someone who pushes the boundaries and tries something, but the fair play report catches them very quickly, and you have the conversation, you change their behavior, and then the fact that they've changed the behavior really helps everyone else. So, all right, some other questions. Time controls. I think particularly for scheduled events, what we think of in Tornelo is kind of these experiences for players. I think anything kind of mid-range time controls is kind of where I see is the sort of best value for players. So from 3-2 as a sort of a blitz tournament would be absolutely the shortest. I wouldn't be going any bullet tournaments on Tornelo. I'd be using lead chess or something for really fast tournaments. And scheduled events, you've got to have rounds at scheduled times. I'd be going with time controls. We do a lot of 4+2. We do some 6+6. We do 10+5. Hugh, I noticed you've said you're doing +15. So I think, once you get to like 90+30, that might be a bit difficult for somebody to stare at a screen for 3 or 4 hours. But anything in that kind of rapid time control up to kind of game in 60, and I would be having a usually some sort of increment. But my general feeling is that people are less patient online. I'm trying to get people to treat it as seriously as they will over the board tournaments. But I think in general, it's faster play. So questions about organizations. You can set up an organization under any name. So you can set up an organization as your name. So you could be called an organization called Hugh Williams. That's completely fine. Or you can be an organization with your business name. So you might be Chess England or Kids Unlimited or Summit Chess or whatever you are. So absolutely, you can set up organizations under any name. One person can have multiple organizations as well. So you could have, and I think Hugh's the biggest culprit there. He's got about 5 different organizations or 6 different organizations that you administer. And so you can absolutely administer multiple different organizations. You can set up different PayPal accounts or Stripe accounts to put money into all sorts of different places. and you can also, you can either be a one-person show, or you can set up organizations with different with additional what we call roles. So you can set up multiple administrators, and so you could have 3 administrators, and all of them can create tournaments, and all of them can run tournaments. And so it's a way of distributing the work, so it's not centralized all in one person. Yes, Milan, thank you. We did a big, we did like a 2-hour webinar about fair play. It'll be on our YouTube channel, on the Tornelo YouTube page. So feel free to go and check that out. All right, yet again, I've run over time, so apologies for going longer than what we said we were going to do. But obviously, it's great that people have been engaged in listening. If you've got any other questions, please feel free to type them into the chat. David's just said hybrid events will be eligible for FIDE ratings and FIDE norms shortly. Yes. Okay, so the FIDE regulations have just come out, that there are 3 different types of tournaments that you can run online or using online. There's what they call online tournaments, which is, kind of let the platform deal with it. So that's your arena tournaments, it's kind of your hands-off tournaments. And you'd be using Lichess or chess.com or any of the other platforms that can run tournaments for those sorts of hands-off tournaments. It's not an arbiter-led tournament. It's not a scheduled tournament. That's much more similar to an on-demand game. I think the value of those is much, much lower. I think it's, in the short term, in the COVID times, people are paying entry fees for those sorts of tournaments. But I think in the long run, it's going to be a little bit difficult to maintain that, because they can get the same experience for free. So what are they getting over and above from your tournaments? If you're running a supervised tournament, which is and so online tournaments will not be FIDE rated. They won't be FIDE rated. The supervised tournaments are like a tournament that you would run on Tornelo, where you're supervising the players in some way, for example, through a Zoom meeting. Those supervised tournaments are probably not going to be FIDE rateable or available for norms, but they are very, very similar to an over-the-board tournament, and you can run them in the kind of the same way. Then there'll be hybrid tournaments, and hybrid tournaments will be where players are in hubs, maybe all over the continent, all over the world, even all over your city. I can see in Australia, which is a very big country, we've got a 4-hour plane trip from one side of the country to the other, but we've only got 25 million people in this whole country. I can see hybrid tournaments being really valuable for us here in Australia, because it's difficult for us to get a critical mass of 60 or 100 players to make a decent tournament together. It's really hard. A lot of our tournaments only have 30 and 40 players, and you just can't get this sort of experience. But if we can get 30 or 40 players in each of 10 different cities, all of a sudden we've got a fantastic tournament. And so please do read those FIDE regulations. Tornelo is fully compliant with the supervised tournaments and the hybrid tournaments. We're possibly the only platform that is fully compliant with all of the regulations for both of those. We think that it's going to be great as soon as there are FIDE rateable tournaments, and having long games and playing them online. Hughes said that a well-played handshake type of thing would be great. So Tornelo is still, we're a baby compared to to your like Lichesses and chess.coms. They've been around for 10 years. Chess.com's got 250 developers working for them. They've got a very well, mature experience for players. We're still new, so we're going very quickly. You will see features being added all the time, and we really like hearing that feedback from arbiters and players as well, because we can then prioritize some of the feature changes based on feedback. Arbiters will be always, and organisers will be our priority because they're our customer. We are a platform designed for organisers and arbiters. a little bit different from the other platforms, which are more focused on players and building their community of players. We're focused on building a community of organizers who themselves have a community of players. Okay, so yeah, some of these key things. It's great to have those, and we'd love to add all of them, but it will take time. Stanislav, yes, we are very close to releasing the fair play analysis feature as a public. So you can take any PGN file, and very shortly you'll be able to take that PGN file and upload that to Tornelo. This is the first time I've said this publicly, so you know, world first. You guys have got the scoop. So you will be able to upload a PGN file to Tornelo and download a fair play report within 1 to 4 hours. So yeah, that is something that that will be very shortly available. So you can run a tournament on LeChess or chess.com, and instead of having to wait, you know, hours or days to the end of the tournament and sending files to Ken Reagan and waiting for them to come back, you will be able to just upload to Tornelo within a couple of hours. You'll be able to get your fair play report. It might be as little as an hour, depending on how it all finishes up. That will most likely be a paid feature. It costs us quite a lot to run the servers to process all of those games. So you'll probably have to put some coins in the slot machine in order to make the servers churn over for that. So yeah, that's the fair play. Okay, I would like to know how to register for a tournament and do it from Swiss Manager program. Okay, so if you're running a tournament on Swiss Manager and then importing pairings into Tornelo, you can do that, and there'll be some other webinars that you can go and view some of those, or we can take that to some. You know, we can do like a one-on-one session. I'm more than happy with anybody who's in this call today to do a one-on-one, and I'll share a link with you. You can do a one-on-one meeting with me, and I can give you some mentoring. It's no cost, and show you how to use some of the features for your specific events if you've got some specific questions. Generally, the people who are using Swiss Manager to do pairings are doing that for an Olympiad-style teams tournament. So if you're doing an individual Swiss, Tornelo pairings engine uses JavaFo, which is the same pairings engine as Swiss Manager. So you will get the same exact pairings. You don't need to do pairings in Swiss Manager if it's an individual Swiss tournament. And at the end of the tournament, Tornelo will produce a TRF file, so you can still upload that TRF file to chessresults.com if you wanted to. Okay, so yeah, you can, and it's free to create an account on Tornelo. Just go onto Tornelo, click create an account, click create an organization, click run a tournament, and you can go ahead and it's completely free to set up all of those processes. We only charge a fee when you collect a registration fee, an entry fee. We collect a small transaction fee when you do that. Okay. So that answers hopefully Vera's question. What's the cost of organizing a 100 and 150 player tournament on Tornelo? It is completely free. Zoom is Zoom. We don't have anything to do with Zoom. Eventually, we will integrate Zoom style of video conferencing into the platform. There may have to be a fee for that as well. So yes, but yeah, Zoom is, you know, you can do Zoom, or you can use Jitsi or some other free versions, or you can use Zoom and then just get people to rejoin the meeting every 40 minutes. If you're doing rounds that are half-an-hour rounds, you might get away with that. Or you just pay, I think it's about $30 a month for Zoom for 100 players. So yeah, otherwise completely free to use Tornelo. Okay, we've got some other people interested in conversions from Swiss Manager. So please, like I said, I'll share that link with you and get you into a one-on-one meeting. So if you've got any questions about Tornelo, if you need support, we do have an Arbiters community on WhatsApp. Some of the people who are in this call are very active on that WhatsApp community. So thank you, Milan, Adam, who are answering questions here, It's fantastic to see the community getting behind us and supporting one another. So there's a WhatsApp group for instant feedback. We've got a help center. We've got a draft of a user manual, which I'll email everybody after this as well. And you've got the ability to have a one-on-one meeting with me. So if you would like a one-on-one session with me, I will copy and paste this link into the chat as well. So feel free to just schedule a meeting anytime that you see there that's available. I'm awake, so feel free to schedule that. Don't worry about the time zones. Just do something that suits you, and I'd be more than happy to show you, the details of what's going on. Okay, Terence, head-to-head tie breaks. Okay, so tie breaks. This is an important question. So let me just, I guess, share with you also kind of our roadmap for where Tornelo is going. We have at the moment we've made a number of changes that's moving more of the pairings program into the tournament lobby. So the next time you come to, when we do our next release in the next week or so, you'll see that there are more features in the tournament lobby and not in the pairings program. So we're continuing to move from the tournament pairings program to the tournament lobby because it's a more modern technology. So it'll be faster, more reliable. You don't have to refresh the page. So we're continuing to do that. That's a kind of what we're calling a next generation pairings program. Once we've completed that pairings program move across, we've got two big things to work on then. One is supporting Olympiad style teams pairing. So you can play teams tournaments, team against team. And the other is having a full suite of tie breaks available, equivalent to what you can do on Swiss Manager. So those are our next two things that are coming up. We will hopefully start work on those in mid to late February. And so it'll be a couple of months before you actually see those features live. But that gives you a little bit of an insight into where we're heading. We're firstly trying to get really stable, fast, scalable, so you can run a 2,000 player tournament with no fear that Tornelo is going to crash, the servers are going to be down, anything like that. We've had 1,100 players in a tournament, but we need to make sure that we can always deliver a real-time experience for all of our users. So moving the pairings program into a more modern technology will help with that. So that's our first objective. And then we'll have the Olympiad style teams pairings, because we've had just so many people, copying and pasting, taking results from Swiss Manager. So we want to eliminate the need to use Swiss Manager and just have everything in Tornelo. So we'll have Olympiad style teams pairings. We'll have team entries. We'll have the ability to manage team compositions, all those sorts of things. And then we'll have a more comprehensive tiebreak features. Actually, before those things happen, we'll also have some enhancements to the fair play and provide fair play as a where you can just upload your PGN file to Tornelo. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I think we've run out of questions now. We just wanted to thank everybody again for staying engaged for so long. It's been great to have everybody here. Please schedule some meetings with me. We'd love to talk one-on-one with people if they've got questions. I just chess has been my life for 25 years. I love it, and I'm really enjoying being able to meet all sorts of organisers and arbiters all around the world. So even if it's just for a chat for half an hour, just do that. I'd be very happy to have that conversation. Okay, yes, Sasha, great. You've got your email there. Adam's got a newsletter. Please subscribe to Adam's newsletter. It's excellent. And we'll see everybody in the next webinar. I've got to think of something interesting to talk about next time. So we'll post it up on the website in about a month or so. Thanks, everyone. All right, good night, or good day for you guys. Good afternoon for you, good night for me.